Right? Trigonometry, right angle triangles only. Right? So you all know this. I think you all know a piece of the storyline and whatnot. So it's gonna be a long class. So let's try to make it enjoyable. Right? Right. So that's so it's in the near future where there's a huge earthquake and whatnot. So everyone knows by now that you don't have to make any notes today, that we're dealing only with right angle triangles. Just to quickly refresh your memory. In a right angle triangle, the side opposite the 90 degrees is your hypotenuse. Your hypotenuse is always the longest side of the right angle triangle and will always be opposite the 90 degrees. The other two sides, which actually make physical contact with the 90 degrees, the other two sides are called legs. All right. So, and also, just to refresh your memory, a lot of times in the exam, when you're given a triangle or any shape, it doesn't have to be a triangle, right? But usually when you're given a shape, they label it. For example, I'm calling this particular triangle A, B, C. They use capital letters for the vertices or corners. Capital letters represent the actual angles. To represent the sides, you use common letters. For example, if here's capital C, the side opposite will be common C. If here's capital A, the side opposite is common A. And if here's capital B, the side opposite is common B. So that should refresh your memory. Capital letters are for angles. Common letters are used to represent the sides. And in the exam, you want to call like the sides by their proper names if you are given letters. For example, I should not call this just leg. The name of this leg is common A. The name of this leg is common B. The name of the hypotenuse here is common C. Right? So you have to do those little things to get proper marks, full marks in the exam. All right? So let's move on. And of course, I'm going to be repeating it whole day today. Right? So after the earthquake, Trinidad has split into two pieces and it's renamed Dalca, Oza, and Tobago. For some strange reason, is now called Colada. And a mysterious island called the Oasis has erupted because of the volcano. And then there's this mythical island called Para. All right. So let's move on. Right. So you all should have these formulas written in your books already. Am I correct about that? To find the hypotenuse, you all have this formula written in already. And to find a regular boring side, you have this. Remember to find the hypotenuse. That's the one with the addition sign. To find a regular boring leg, that's the one with the minus sign. Okay? All right. Once again, we're just moving on. Right, so everybody got scenes here. So this is supposed to be the island, the Oasis Island that has formed because of the volcano. Keep in mind, this is supposed to be the near future. Right, so there's a lot of myth and superstition revolving around this island that has appeared near Trinidad and Tobago. Right. Right, so even the sailors are afraid of the island. All right, so quickly on the screen right now, there's really no need to draw the diagrams today. Everyone send the answer for number 1. Let's see what you come up with. Now remember, all the triangles today are going to be right angle triangles. Please continue to send the answers. I'm looking the best as much as I can. Right. So in question 1, it's a right angle triangle. They gave you the length of two sides and they want you to find a missing side. But that is what you use Pythagoras theorem for. Pythagoras theorem strictly is for a right angle triangle, and they have to give you the length of two sides, and you are just trying to find a missing side. Now, in question 1, it seems to me the hypotenuse is missing. So they're calling x the hypotenuse. So what you need to do, whenever you're trying to find the hypotenuse, he's the one with the addition sign. So you take the two legs and you square them and you add them. Now remember, you square root last. So when you solve for x here, I believe you are getting roughly 17.72 centimeters, right? For those who got it wrong, please let me know that you saw your mistake, because we are trying to find what? The hypotenuse. That's the formula with the addition sign. Question 2. Who can tell me what is missing in question 2? Is it the hypotenuse or a regular boring side, a leg? Well, the regular boring sides are called legs. Only the hypotenuse is special. It's definitely a leg or a regular boring side. So this time in question 2, x is a regular boring side, a leg. Whenever you're trying to find a leg, you don't use the formula with the addition sign. You use the one with the subtraction sign. So you put your hypotenuse first. You must put your hypotenuse. He's always opposite your right angle. So it's 33 squared. And then you take the other leg that they gave you, square it, but you minus it. And once again, you square root last. So it's 33 squared minus 24 squared. And when you work out the inside, you're getting 513. But you have to remember to square root it. And when you square root that, we're quickly getting 22.65, if we round it off properly, centimeters. Okay, great. All right, so let me just fill in the answers as we get them, right? X was 17.72, right? I just want to update my diagram. And X over here was 22.65. In question 3, what is missing? A hypotenuse or a regular boring side? Is it a leg missing? No, Leah, no. I think it's a regular boring side. Look at it. Any side opposite the right angle is the hypotenuse. So the 22 here is the hypotenuse. X is a regular boring side, a leg. So we have to use the formula once again, just like question 2 with the minus sign. So to get X, we just say 22 squared minus 12 squared. We know to work out the inside, and when you work out the inside, we square root last, right? So 22 squared, that's what, 22 squared minus 12 squared. I am getting quickly 340. And what do we have to do with that? Square root it. And when we do that, we get 18.44 centimeters. And let me update my diagram, 18.44 centimeters. How much people got all 3 correct? And for those who got any wrong, please let me know that you saw your mistake, right? So far, I've been asking you to find missing sides, whether it's a hypotenuse or a leg, right? How about the area? Now, a lot of people know that the area of a triangle is based by height divided by 2. Now, you don't always have to use that formula. I'm not too sure if you all spotted this in the homework. How much of you all came across this formula to find the area of a triangle? Half AB sine C. Not everybody would have spotted it because it wasn't a very big part of the videos, but it was somewhere around there, right? If not, take down this formula, and I want to show you how to use these formulas instead of using base by height divided by 2. There are plenty ways to find the area of a triangle. I want to focus on using this formula. Take it down, let me know when you're ready. So let me explain what this formula is about. It looks a bit strange. The area of a triangle can be found by taking a half, multiplying it by A, multiplying it by B, and then multiplying it by C. The multiply signs are understood. A and B are the sides of a triangle, and C is the angle in between. I don't have much space there, right? But let me show you how to use this formula. Let's go to the first triangle. If I wanted to find the area of the triangle in question 1, I could say base by height divided by 2, but I don't want to use that formula. To find the area of a triangle, we need the length of at least 2 sides. So if you look at question 1, well, you see we have the length of all 3 sides, 5, 17, and 17.72. So we have more than 2 sides. But whatever 2 sides you choose, you must have the angle in between it. So I'm going to do the wrong thing first, and I want you all to tell me why it's wrong. If I choose 17 and 17.72, so I ignore the 5 centimeters, can I find the area of that triangle? The answer is no. But why? Because, but people are sending the answers quickly on the chat there already. The reason is, if I choose 17 and 17.72, do I have the angle in between those 2 sides? Look at it carefully. Whichever 2 sides I choose, I must have the angle in between. And the answer is no, I do not have the angle in between. So what are the 2 correct sides to choose if I cannot choose the 17.72 and 17? What are the 2 correct sides to choose? The 17 and the 5. Great, you also like, because if I choose the 17 and the 5, this side and this side, I have the angle in between. And the angle in between those 2 particular sides are 90 degrees, the box, right? So to find the area, I use A for area, is a half multiplied by A and B are the 2 chosen sides. And C is the angle in between those 2 sides. You think you all could work this out on your calculator? If you don't like the half, throw it away and replace it with 0.5. Type in this straight on your calculator. Let me know what you get. Right. Junior, check it back, check it back. No, sorry, I could be wrong. I may have done something wrong. Half multiplied by 17, multiplied by 5, multiplied by sine 90. Nope, Junior, you are correct. My mistake. I am getting 42.5 centimeters squared. Make sure you physically see that on your calculator. Also, make sure your calculator is set on degrees, not radians. Okay? Right? So just for those who are a little confused, when you have your calculator, make sure you're seeing a DEG to the top of your calculator or the letter D. If it's not DEG or D, please check it, right? Because you'll be getting the wrong answers right throughout class. All right. So for question 2, what are the 2 correct sides to choose if we want to find the area? For question 2, should I choose the 33 and 24 or the 33 and the 22.65? What should I choose? Right, and you all are screaming the answers very quickly. We should choose the 22.65 and the 24 because we have the angle in between those 2 sides. And the formula only works only if you have the angle in between the 2 chosen sides. Could you all find the area of question of triangle 2 for me, please? Area. A half. A and B are the 2 chosen sides. and then sine, and the angle in between those two sides are 90 degrees once again. Right? And the type of calculator I am using is a Sharp, right? Usually I buy a Sharp and make sure I have DAL written on it, right? Sharp DAL. Do not buy it unless it has DAL on it, okay? And I'm getting roughly, boy, why am I think some people are typing in it wrong, but I am getting 271.8 centimeters squared. For those who getting 300 and something, check it back, check it back. Make sure your calculator is set on degrees. Take your time, do it again, right? All right. So for the third triangle, the two sides we're forced to choose is the 12 and the 18.44 because the 90 degrees or the given angle is in between those two sides. So to find the area, it's a half multiplied by 18.44 multiplied by 12 multiplied by sine 90. Let's see what we get here. 0.5 multiplied by 18.44 multiplied by 12 multiplied by sine 90. And I'm getting 110.64 centimeters squared. Make sure you see that on your calculator. Right. Let's see what's going on with these. So apparently the people who live on the oasis, that's a strange, mysterious island, are called the faceless ones. There's a picture of the faceless ones. They don't look too friendly, right? We'll see what happens to them, with them. All right, so quickly in this question, no need to draw it. You have to quickly find the value of x. Now, this is a more realistic situation which everyone can relate to. I think everyone has seen someone lean up a ladder against a wall. Now, when you look at it, it's really what in disguise? A right angle triangle. Could you all tell me the vertical height of that imaginary right angle triangle? All right, guys, so which formula are we using? The one with the addition sign or the one with the subtraction sign? Right? Right, the one with the minus sign, the takeaway sign, right? Because x is a regular boring side, a leg. So if you're trying to find x, this is the formula you're using. The hypotenuse, you square it, take the other side, square it, and you minus it. Once again, we square root last. 9 squared minus 1.5 squared, we get 78.75. We have to square root that. And when we do, we get 8.87, not centimeters, my mistake, meters. For those who got it wrong, let me know if you spotted your error, right? And of course, at the same, if they ask you for the area, the examiner did not draw in the 90 degrees, but the 90 degrees would be over here, right? Because the vertical wall will make a 90 degrees with the horizontal ground. Could you all quickly find the area using the same area formula that I just gave you, the two sides, and you need the angle in between. So see if you can get the area also. Make sure you choose the two correct sides. So define the area, remember it's a half AB sine C, where the two sides we have to choose are x and the 1.5. Now we know the value of x is 8.87 the other side is 1.5, and the angle in between them is 90 degrees. And when you work out this, you are definitely going to get, just now something's blocking my view, you're going to get 6.65 meters squared, because it's area. So we have to put meters squared, not centimeters squared. If you put the wrong units in the exam, you lose a mark. Right? So you have 20 seconds before we move on. Let's move on, right? But eventually I will do a whole session on past paper questions, so don't worry. Right. So I'm sure you all noticed two things, right? Pythagoras theorem can only be used on right angle triangles, no other type of triangle in the world, right? And you only use it to find a missing side, but the examiner has to give you the length of the two other sides. So in other words, only one side can be missing, but you all already knew that from the homework. This is just a friendly reminder. All right. So apparently you have to pretend that you live in Dalka. That's the western side of the island that was split in half by the earthquake, right? So people in Dalka are called Dalkanians, and they live as either farmers or fishermen. And they are constantly attacked by pirates living where? On the Oza, right? So the Oza have a lot of pirates and they attack the Dalkanians, making life hard for them. All right, so I made sure and change the values for this particular question. Come up with an answer for this one, right? They want you to find the total length of the wire. So you know here's 14, here's 20, here's 8. So you notice this side is missing. So you have to use your trigonometry skills to find the length of this line. And once you get the length of the slanted line, you add up 1, 2, 3, 4 lengths to get the total length of the shape. So the slanted side is missing. Now, if you were to draw an imaginary line like this, so you see two shapes, a rectangle and a right angle triangle. I think everyone could agree this is a 90 degrees here if we make a rectangle. What would be this length here? Remember, if the whole thing is 14 and here's 8, then the opposite side would be 8. So how much would be the pink portion? Not Kenya, not 8. Well, sorry, I don't know which one you was answering. Sorry, I should not rush there. If here's 8, then this side is also 8, right? The opposite sides of a rectangle are equal. So if the whole thing is 14 and here's 8, to find the pink portion, we just have to minus. 14 minus 8 is 6 centimeters. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw the triangle part only so we can concentrate on that. We know here's 20 because if here's 20, then the opposite side is also 20. And we just reasoned out here was 6. We could find this side of the triangle because that's the hypotenuse. So I think we're going to be using the one with the addition sign. So to find the slanted side is 20 squared plus 6 squared, and then we square root. So let's work that out. 20 squared plus 6 squared, we get 4, 3, 6. We square root that, and we get roughly 20.88. Now, I know they tell me to go to 1 decimal place, right? But here's my advice, right? If they ask you to go to 1 decimal place, work with 2 decimal places. You always work with 1 more decimal place than they want. And at the end of the question, then round off to 1 decimal place. So we just found out here was 20.88. We have to add up the 20.88, the 8, the 20, and the 14. So we're going to add up all of those, 20.88, 20.88 plus 8 plus 20 plus 14, and I'm getting the final answer to be 62.88 to 2 decimal places. But if I go to 1, it will be 62.9 because I have to add 1 to the 8 centimeters. For those who got it wrong, right, please let me know if you spotted the error. I'm not too sure what could have gone wrong here. I assume that a few of you all did not realize here was 6 centimeters, and some of you all may have used the minus sign by mistake, but it's the positive sign because we're trying to find the hypotenuse. Let me know what the error was at least, okay? If they're asking to find the area of the entire shape now, do you all think you all can do that? To find the area of the entire shape, you find the area of the rectangle, the area of the triangle, and you add them. Remember, the area of a rectangle is length by breadth. So see if you all can find the area of that shape for some imaginary extra marks. Right. Entire shape. For the rectangle is length by breadth. So 20 by 8. Right, so 20 by 8 is 160 centimeters squared, but that's the rectangle only. For the triangle, I know we have the length of all 3 sides now, the 6, the 20, and the 20.88. But remember, we want the angle in between the 2 sides. So we're forced to use what? The 6 and the 20. So to find the area of the triangle only, it's a half A by B, the 2 sides, and sine of the angle in between, which happens to be at 90 degrees again. So a half multiplied by 6 multiplied by 20 multiplied by sine 90 is 60 centimeters squared. Right? So 160 plus the 60, because here's 60 centimeters squared. And I get in my final answer for the area, if they had asked us for the area, as 220 centimeters squared. This one is area, so we have to put the squared. Right, Daria, you saw your mistake, right? You put 180 by mistake. So let me know if you spotted the mistake there. Right. So remember, you all live on Dalka, and this is your home. Well, remember, it's after a huge earthquake and whatnot, so you can't expect your living conditions to be great. But this is your home, and you're waiting on your father to come back from fishing because he's a fisherman. All right, so let's do this question here now. Here we have an isosceles triangle, and you all know what an isosceles triangle is. It's where 2 sides of the triangle are equal. Now, an isosceles triangle is not a right-angled triangle, but whenever you slice an isosceles triangle straight down the middle, each half becomes what? A right-angled triangle. So once you can imagine that you could slice it down the middle and get a right-angled triangle, then you have an excuse to use what? Pythagoras theorem, if it could be useful. So everyone work on finding the value of h, please. Example. I know you all seen 2 numbers in front of you, 9 and 5. So your brain is automatically going to say, all right, let's just use, it's had to do something with Pythagoras theorem. Let's just throw 9 and 5 into one of the Pythagoras theorem's formula. But remember, to make it a right angle, we had to split it down the middle. So if you split that down the middle and we take one of the halves only, we know here is 90 degrees. Here is 9, but what is this distance here? Is that distance 5? No, that distance can never be 5. The whole thing is 5, but we said we splitting it down the middle. So here's 2.5. And remember, we're trying to find each. Too many people put 5 over here. Since we're trying to find the height is a leg, a regular boring side, because the 9 is opposite the right angle. So the 9 is the hypotenuse. So we have to use this formula, the one with the minus, right, side. Okay. All right. So H is equal to, right, 9 squared minus 2.5 squared. Okay. So you have to square. So for those who want a chance of, do you think you could figure it out from there now? Because we have to use the one with the minus side. All right. Right. So when I work this out, I am getting, if I round it off to 2 decimal places properly, I'm getting 8.65 centimeters. Right. Now you have to try to round off properly. Huh? I know a lot of you are saying 8.64, but if you look at the next decimal place, right, in a lot of cases, it's 5 or more, so we have to add. Believe it or not, the examiner is going to be looking for minor things like that. You might think it's minor, but the examiner loves to spot little mistakes like that and start to deduct marks from your paper, right? So H is how much? 8.65 centimeters. Now I ask you to find the area of this triangle. The easiest way, I mean, what we could do, everyone agrees that if we find the area of one of the halves, and to find the total area, we could just multiply it by 2. And does everyone agree with that part? That we could find the area of the pink triangle, and then whatever we get, we multiply it by 2. To me, that's, I know there's another easier way to find it, but I want to stick with the half AB sine C, right? So here's 8.65 centimeters. We have 2 sides, and the angle in between is 90 degrees, right? So you can use the half AB sine C and then multiply it by 2. Half AB multiplied by sine 90. And that will give you the area of one of the halves of the triangle. Right. When you do that, I'm hoping that you see 10.81 centimeters squared. But that's one of the halves. The total area would be 10.81 multiplied by 2. And we get roughly 21.62 or 63, depending on how much you round off, right? Right? No, that's not 10.81 multiplied by 2. Nope, I'm getting 21.62 centimeters squared, right? Let's see what's going on in Dalka here. All right, so your father comes back from his fishing trip. Not trip, that's his work, that's his job, sorry. And says he has found something. And he tells you he has good news and he has bad news. Which one you all want to hear first? The good news or the bad news? I can't remember if you're going to see it here now or that's the next slide. All right. All right, so that's the next slide. He's going to tell you the good and bad news afterwards. All right, so here's a scary looking question, but at the end of the day, right? This is just simply 2 right angles, one standing on the other. Your job apparently is to find the length of AB. better known as x. Right? So have fun finding x. Now, when you're sending your answers, you're only sending your final answer for x, nothing else. All right, so this is my plan, right? I would suggest you all try to find the length of CB first. Now, if you look at the top right angle triangle, forget the one underneath. This side, CB, is he a leg or a regular boring side? Only look at the top triangle. Forget about the underneath triangle. He is definitely a leg, because in the big triangle, the top one, who is the hypotenuse? The side opposite the right angle is 19. So we are trying to find what? A leg, which means to find the length of CB, which is a leg, we have to use the one with the minus sign. So you say 19 squared minus 11 squared, okay? So 19 squared minus 11 squared leaves us with 240. And we have to square root that. Square root, we get 15.49 roughly, right? I'm trying to go to 2 decimal places. So here, this CB line is 15.49. Now, remember, the aim of the question is to find who? X. Look at the triangle underneath now. What is X in that scenario? Is that a hypotenuse or is that a leg? Right, and X, which is AB, is definitely a leg. Who is the hypotenuse for the small triangle? The answer we just found, the 15.49. He is the hypotenuse for the underneath triangle. So to find X, we have to do what? We have to use the one with the minus sign. So to find X is this here, right? 15.49 squared minus 8 squared. Now, I know everybody's going to round off. Well, when they square this, they're going to round off a little bit different. So I'm not going to fight about the exact answer here. 15.49 squared minus 8 squared. When I work this out, I'm getting 175.94. That's if I type in this exact thing on the calculator, and then I square root exactly this, and I will get 175.94 to the power 0.5. I'm getting roughly 13.26 centimeters. For those who got it wrong, you know what to do, right? Let me know if you spotted your error. All right, so let's see what our father has to tell us. The good news and the bad news. Right? You all remember that there was this mythical island to the south of the map called Para, right? So it's a legendary island, right? So he found a map to that island. And he wants you to take his boat and find the island and have a better life, right? Because where you're living now isn't too nice. For those who are wondering, it's waterproof paper. It was laminated. I don't know. Right, so your father will not be going with you because he is too ill. He will only slow you down. So I don't know which one is the bad news for you all here, right? You all could decide. All right. All right, so I'm not going to do everything here. This is just to make sure that your calculator on the correct mode, right? Because everyone should have covered this in the homework videos, right? So there's a quick test run. Everyone work out sine 20 on your calculator and send the answer on the chat. This is just to make sure your calculator is on degrees mode before we move on to a part of the exercise where it's crucial to be on the degrees mode. Right? What I'm working out sine 20, I hope you all are seeing this 0.34, something, something, something. If you're not, please rectify the error on your calculator, change it to the correct mode. All right. And then everyone work out this one here. The first one here, cos P, the pink one with the pink arrow. Remember, if you're trying to find angle P, you throw across the cosine, and the inverse of cosine is cos inverse. So find cos inverse 0.45 and make sure you're seeing this on your calculator. Make sure you're seeing 63.26 degrees. If you're not seeing that, you need to sort out your calculator. Sharon, your calculator, Sharon Marie, your calculator is on the wrong mode. The top of your calculator, remember every calculator is different, right? Make sure the top of your calculator, you are seeing DEG. Look at here, DEG or the letter D. If you are seeing anything else, it needs to be changed. Right? Fakira, you need to check it, right? You suppose it's this one, cos P. So it's cos inverse 0.45. All right, so this is but nobody has ready, no living person apparently has seen para or lived to see para or come back to tell anyone about para. But this is what people imagine what para, that mystical island, looks like. It's a heavenly island, looks like a paradise, has fresh water, food, and no fighting. All right. It probably has monkeys on the island, who knows? All right, so a lot of the questions now are going to be based on sine, tan, and cosine. And of course, when I was teaching this, in the videos, remember in sine, tan, and cosine, there were three parts of the triangle: opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. And I think I mentioned, but I'm sure I mentioned that opposite and adjacent all depends on where you are standing in the triangle, like which angle you are standing at. So I know a lot of people get confused about it, so I'm going to try a different way of just quickly refreshing your memory or explaining it. I want everyone to look at the first triangle. This is clearly a right angle triangle. Pretend you are a bird flying over this scenario and you're seeing a fence, some grass, and a brick wall. And then have two cars. The 90 degrees is obviously here. What would be the hypotenuse? The brick wall, the wooden fence, or the grass? What would be the hypotenuse? Right, and a lot of people are saying the grass, and you all are correct, because the hypotenuse is always opposite the right angle. So the grass is your hypotenuse. I'll put an H. If we were standing by the red car, so you have an angle over here, okay? Remember, the hypotenuse never changes in a triangle. It doesn't matter where you stand in a right angle triangle. The hypotenuse will always be the hypotenuse. If you are standing by the red car, what would be the opposite side? The fence or the brick wall? Right. And that would definitely be the fence. So I'll put O for opposite, because we're standing by the red car. And of course, once you figure out who is opposite and who is hypotenuse, then the remaining side is the adjacent. It's as simple as that. And it's always find O and H first, and the remaining side is adjacent. Now, if you are standing by the blue car, everything changes up. The hypotenuse remains the same, but if you are standing by the blue car, who would be the opposite now? Opposite would be the brick wall. And of course, I know who the opposite is. The hypotenuse hasn't changed, but from the blue car point of view, from his reference point, the wooden fence is the adjacent. And this is what a lot of people fail to retain when they do sine, tan, and cosine. They fail to remember that opposite and adjacent could switch, all depending on where you are standing in the triangle. Only the hypotenuse remains the same. So let's quickly do another one here, right? In the second triangle, you would see that here is your right angle. The person who is playing golf, who is the opposite side now? For the person who is playing golf, the opposite side. Right, and I see nobody fell for the trick, right? I thought somebody was going to say the grass, but remember, the side opposite him is the fence. The hypotenuse is the grass, because the grass is opposite what? The right angle. So once again, once you know O and H, then the missing side or the remaining side becomes your adjacent. Always find O and H first. They will be the two easiest things to find. The remaining side would be the adjacent. All right, so once again, you don't have to take this down. This is just for me to refresh your memory on what on the homework. And let's move on to the actual questions in a little while. What are you all going to do now? You're going to convince your father to go with you all, or you're just going to go on your own and follow his instructions? What are you all going to do? You all are horrible, horrible, horrible. A lot of you are just saying, you're just going to go. Right, so remember the oasis, right? So apparently they have legends of monsters living around that volcanic island where the faceless live. Scary place. Right, so we'll see which one is true, whether the faceless are these demons who summon creatures, or these monsters are prehistoric animals, or if it's even real at all. All right, guys, so you have 3 questions using sine, tan, and cosine, and I have took the liberty of putting the formulas on the side here. Remember, it's up to you in the exam to figure out whether you're using sine, tan, or cosine to find the missing side or missing angle. Good luck. For the first one, right? We usually stand by the angle that they give to us, except in 90 degrees. In sine, tan, and cosine questions, where it only works for right angles, but you never ever pretend you are standing by the 90 degrees. You always pretend that you're standing by the other angle they give you. So I'm standing by the 22 degrees. If I'm standing by the 22 degrees, I know the x is what? Opposite, so I'll put O for opposite. The hypotenuse is over here. I'll put H for hypotenuse. And the 18 is what? The adjacent. So it seems to me the examiner has given us the adjacent and wants us to find the opposite. Who is useless in that question? The hypotenuse. He has no part in that question. They didn't give us the length of the hypotenuse, and they don't even want us to find the hypotenuse. So which one are we using here? Sine, tan, or cosine, which is the only one with opposite and adjacent in it. And that would definitely be the green one, tan, okay? So we're trying to find which side the opposite. So we block the opposite. Opposite is what? Adjacent multiplied by tan theta. So x is the opposite. To find the opposite, we take the adjacent and multiplied by tan theta. Theta is the angle we are standing up in. So it's 18 multiplied by tan, and the angle is 22. You just have to type in that straight on your calculator, and we are finished. 18 multiplied by tan, 22, and we're getting 7.27 centimeters. For those who got it wrong, I did see a few people got it wrong. Could you let me know what was the error, right? May have mixed up where the opposite and adjacent was. You may have used the wrong formula. You might have used sine or cosine by mistake, right? Yeah, no problem, Leah. Thanks for letting me know. Right. Get a different color here. All right, so for the second one, we know the hypotenuse is 75 because the opposite the right angle, right? We are standing by the 55 degrees. That's the angle that we're going to stand up by. X is the opposite side because the 55 is here. So X is opposite that angle. And the remaining side, well, from here to here is the adjacent. Now, it seems to me the adjacent is useless in this question because they gave you the hypotenuse and they want you to find X. Whatever they want you to find is definitely important. The adjacent has nothing to do in this question. So which one are we choosing for question 2? Which one has H and O in it? Hypotenuse and opposite. That would be the red one. That would be sine. And we're trying to find the opposite side. So how do you find opposite? Opposite is hypotenuse multiplied by sine. So to find X is hypotenuse multiplied by sine theta. Hypotenuse is 75. The angle is 55. So let's work that out. 75 multiplied by sine, how much? 55. And a few people did send 61.44 roughly, if you round it off, centimeters, right? But a lot of people did not get that answer. I suspect they used cosine by mistake, right? So as usual, let me know, hey, what you did wrong. I'm always interested in knowing. Get a different color here going now. Just use white. What could be wrong with the third one? Here's the right angle. So X is the hypotenuse. If you're standing by the 48, over here is the opposite, which makes the 28 the adjacent. Who is useless in this particular question, in the third one? Who is the useless one? Opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse? It would have to be the opposite, right? The opposite has nothing to do with this question. They gave you the length of the adjacent. When they give you information, it's very useful. And they want you to find the hypotenuse, okay? So the only two people involved here are adjacent and hypotenuse. To me, that's cosine. So they want you to find what? The hypotenuse. How do you find hypotenuse? It's adjacent divided by cosine. So X is adjacent divided by cosine of the angle. The adjacent side is 28, and theta is the angle you are standing up in. So you see, this one ended up being a divide because you're trying to find the hypotenuse. The other two questions were multiplied. So I think a lot of people just automatically, they went autopilot, and you just decided to multiply. But when you examine the the sides and the information they gave us and what they want us to find, it's really a divide. So 28 divided by cosine 48 is 41.85 centimeters. Right? For those who got it wrong, you know what you need to do. All right, so it seems you all left your father behind. You went and respected his wishes. So you set sail to find that mysterious island, Para. All right, so in these questions now, we're using sine, tan, and cosine again, but this time we're trying to find missing angles. In the previous 3 questions, we were trying to find missing sides. Now it's angles. So anytime you're trying to find angles, you will have to use the inverse button, the second function button on the calculator, because you'll be forced to find either sine inverse or cos inverse or tan inverse whenever you're trying to find an angle. Good luck. Questions? The first question, if we're standing at x, I know for sure the 3 is the opposite and the 6 is the adjacent. The hypotenuse has nothing to do with this question. So the only one with opposite and adjacent is tan. So that's the green formula. So anytime we're trying to find the angle, we use the entire 3 expression. So tan theta, remember theta is the angle we're trying to find, but the name of the angle today is x. So we could call it tan x. Tan is opposite divided by adjacent. So opposite divided by adjacent. The opposite side is 3. The adjacent side is 6. So it's 0.5 or half. But the question isn't finished there. Remember, tan x is equal to 0.5. We want x alone. So we have to take the tan and throw it across. And when you throw across tan, you get tan inverse. So you have to type in second function tan or shift tan and then type in the 0.5. And when we do that, a lot of people send this to 26.57 degrees. Okay, make sure you put a degrees sign because it's an angle we are trying to define. All right, so we're working on the 3 in one shot because you had enough time. For the part B, we're standing at x again because that's the angle they want us to find. The 4 is opposite and the 15 is the hypotenuse. So the 2 sides are O and H, that's sine. So how do you find sine x? Sine is opposite divided by hypotenuse. Opposite divided by hypotenuse. The opposite is 4. The hypotenuse is 15. So what I'm going to do, 4 divided by 15, you're going to get 0.266666666, right? I'm just going to round it off to 0.27, to 2 decimal places. So sine x is equal to 0.27. Throw across the sine, you're going to get sine inverse. Now remember, I'm using the 0.27. If you use the 0.26666, like you use all of those decimal places, you're going to get a slightly different answer to me. But I am getting 15.66 degrees, which a lot of people did send. All right, let's try the third one quickly here. Need some space. So for this one here, right, run a space here. You're starting at x. We know the 10 is the hypotenuse, and this 8, so close to the x, we know he's the adjacent. Only one formula with adjacent and hypotenuse, and that's Mr. Cosine. So you get cosine x is adjacent divided by hypotenuse. 8 divided by 10, which is 0.8. So cos x is equal to 0.8. Throw across the cos, you get cos inverse. Let's see what we get here. Second function, cosine 0.8 is right, and on 36.87 degrees. How much people got all three correct without my help? All right, so here we have another question, right? We want the size of the angle BAC. The size of the angle BAC. You notice it didn't come out right in this question and tell you exactly which angle. But this is pretty common in the exam. If they say angle BAC, it's the middle letter they're talking about. So that's why I included this question. So BAC, they actually want you to find this angle here, the green angle with the dot. So you figure it out from there, right? So sine, tan, or cosine. All right, so let me see if you have the majority of this question correct. So you're standing at A. That 12 is definitely opposite. So I'll put the O. And that 13 is opposite the right angle. So I know that's the hypotenuse. So only opposite and hypotenuse are relevant in this question. Opposite and hypotenuse is Mr. Sine. So you're trying to find the angle. So we put sine. Well, the name of the official name, you can call it angle A if you wish, instead of putting theta, because it's angle A we're trying to find at the end of the day. It's opposite over hypotenuse. Look at it. Opposite over hypotenuse. The opposite is 12. The hypotenuse is 13. If we divide those two, 12 divided by 13 is 0.92, and then have a 3 here, right? But I'm going to 2 decimal places. So sine A is 0.92. You want to solve for A. Throw across sine, you're going to get what? Sine inverse 0.92. And I'm getting roughly 66.93 degrees. Yeah, no problem. Lynn. Right, so after that thunderstorm, well, guess your boat is destroyed. So you're just in that water. Will you die? Who knows? Right. So question 2 here. Nothing special here. You just want to find the side RT. So that's this guy here. From R to T, figure out whether it's sine, tan, or cosine. So you're standing by the 53. Let's see what happens here. That 14 is opposite the 53 degrees, and this RT is the adjacent side. The hypotenuse has nothing to do with this question because they gave you the opposite and want you to find the length of the adjacent. O and A is tan, opposite over adjacent. Now remember, they want you to find the adjacent side. So how do you find adjacent? Adjacent is opposite divided by tan theta. All right. So Dana, check it back, check it back. the adjacent side is opposite divided by tan theta. This question has nothing to do with tan inverse because we're trying to find a side, not an angle this time. The length of the opposite side is 14, and tan, the angle is 53 degrees. So when you work this out, right, just to type it in straight on the calculator, 14 divided by tan 53, and we get roughly 10.55 centimeters. All right, so people are seeing their mistakes. Good, good. Hey, I guess you're lucky. Look at it. Your ship sank and another ship comes sailing next by. I guess luck is on your side. So unfortunately, that ship is a pirate ship, right? But you don't have much of a choice here, right? So it's either go on the pirate ship or drown in the ocean. All right. So this one here, oh, I think I made a mistake here. This is the same question we just did. Sorry about that, guys. It happens. All right, so we're skipping this one. So the good news is, right, you get to see our next cutscene here, right? So the pirates take you to the hideout in northeast coast of Oza. Now, this is 1,000 years in the future, right? So you all want to guess what that popular beach is on the northeast coast? 1,000 years later, they still won't call it by the same name, but what would you call it? It's supposed to be Toko. So it's supposed to be Toko Beach. All right, so here's a question that we need to try. Two triangles squished together. The examiner is only interested in finding the value of this length here, x. Right, so let me see what you come up with. So if you notice, I drew the top triangle over here, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to find this length over here. Here's 50 degrees. If I decide to find this length, this side would be the opposite. The 5 would be what? The adjacent, right? So I can just put A and O, but whatever. The hypotenuse, I'm not interested in finding it. So which one has opposite and adjacent in it? That would be tan. And I want to find the opposite side. So to find the opposite, it's adjacent multiplied by tan theta. So to find the opposite, let's not need more space there. To find the opposite, I'll just put O for opposite. I'm just going to have to take the adjacent and multiply it by tan theta. That's just the remainder of the formula. The adjacent is 5 and theta is 50 degrees. So let's multiply that. 5 multiplied by tan 50, I'm getting 5.96 centimeters. How much people have up to there? Like you realize that you needed to find this line over here first before moving on. So once you figure out this line is 5.96 centimeters, I'm going to pay attention to the triangle underneath now. Here's 38 degrees. X is what? Opposite. And this 5.96 is what? Adjacent. Once again, it's what? Tan, because there's only one formula that involves opposite and adjacent. And that's tan. And we want to find the opposite side again. So we're using the same formula. Opposite is adjacent multiplied by tan theta. The adjacent this time is 5.96 and theta is 38 this time. So 5.96 multiplied by tan 38 is 4.66 centimeters. The final answer is 4.66 centimeters. Right, as usual, you got it wrong. Let me know what was the problem. And everyone in Zoom will be free to leave. Right. So you're on the pirate ship, so they chain you up, right? So they plan to go to the oasis and sell you for gold to the faceless. Of course, the pirates are afraid of the oasis. All right.